Welcome to another episode of the Wandering Watercolor. Today we are painting the 6th page of the Plants and Flowers watercolor coloring book. It's a book that I hand make myself, and let's get started. So this is the image, is just a daffodil with a little butterfly on it. It should be pretty straightforward. I think there's only like 5 or 6 colors in this entire piece, and as always, have a rag, scrap piece of paper if you can, place to mix your colors, obviously your palette, whatever palette you're using, and a brush and some jars of water. First thing is I'll wet my paint. If you don't have one of these, just use your brush. And I will go ahead and get a ton of yellow. Like, I really want a good amount of yellow here. And then some water. And then just really get as much yellow as you can. And we will be using this as the base layer for the daffodil. And even though it's a base layer, we still want it to be a little stronger. We want it to have a little more intensity, just because although there is some shading in this image, there's not a lot, and so we want whatever is there to really stand out. So I'll just go ahead and I'll grab that and then just start layering it in. Just layer it in. Kind of like almost like you're just coloring in, just like with a marker or something, just flat wash, meaning you're not going for texture or shading. You're just trying to get the base color in. And get all that. I'm slowing down towards the edges because we will put in a background in this, so we don't want it to like overlap or mix or anything. Maybe get a little water, move it around a little easier. Get all that in like that. Try to make it even if you can. If you see a spot that's starting to develop like a little bit of a texture, just go over it again, and usually that helps even it out, kind of like I did over here. Okay, so all of that is nice and even, fully colored in, a vibrant yellow color, so that's good. Good on that. So the next color that we will focus on is going to be orange. This one will also be a very vibrant orange, so we're picking up a ton of pigment, a little bit of water to make it flow a little smoother, a ton of pigment, and let's see, yeah, that's nice and strong. I'll throw in a little red in there too. And we're going to use this for the butterfly. And basically this entire row here, we can just cover it in. Don't worry about overlapping the markings. We will be covering them with black, so that's totally fine. So we're just gonna go in. So basically these spots here, they're all orange, except these little ones that are kind of like capping the top of the spots. Those are white. And since this is a monarch butterfly, those are the colors. Go in here. They might look a little strong now, but trust me, when we color in the rest, or paint in the rest, I should say, it will look rather different. And a little bit here, and here, and good on that. I'm gonna rinse off my brush, and I'm gonna dry it off a bit. I'm gonna go back and pick up a little bit of some parts, just to give some variation, because I don't want it to all be the same for the butterfly, because it'll make it more interesting if there's some variation, like some lighter, some darker orange, because the rest of it will look kind of flat. So giving that variation gives a little bit of interest. Okay, rinse off my brush. I'm gonna grab some green, grab a bunch of green, and grab a little more green. Okay, and a bunch more yellow. Make it more of a yellow green. Okay, some water. And this is pretty straightforward. Again, just a flat wash going right in here. Just filling in the stem and then the leaf, a little bit up here, and then the leaf, just same thing, just quick wash. And that's good. Rinse that off. Spilled my jar here a little bit. 1 second. Okay. Another useful thing for a rag is just if you ever spill anything. Okay. It doesn't look like much right now, but that'll quickly change. I'm gonna grab some of the light blue here. I'm gonna put a good amount of water. Since this is a fairly strong color, I don't want it to be so strong. I want to dilute it. And we are going to get a bit more texture-y with the way that we're going to do this wash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it down kind of like, imagine if there's a line here. I'm going to go from that line outward like this, and then outward the other way. And the idea is we're going to press down on the paper a little bit so we can get some of that texture of the paper. So kind of like that. Like that. And we're going out from kind of like the center point, which is more of a diagonal running through the paper. I'm going out like that. Maybe a little bit of water. It's almost like you're fading out the background, going outward from the flower and the butterfly. Almost like a vignette, but more of a watery vignette, I guess. Well, yeah, anyway, you get it. You know what I mean. Kind of like that. There we go. And now we will do the exact same thing in the opposite direction. So we're gonna color in all of this like that. And around the edges, obviously I'm going a little slower. And then just kind of pull it out, press down, pull it out. Okay. Same here, get a little bit of water, kind of like that. And that's pretty good right there. And then, oh, I got a lot of green in my yellow here. Let me pull some of that up. Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna grab a bunch of, water it again. I'm gonna grab a bunch of this yellow. Oh crap, we got some of the brown in it. It's alright, I was actually gonna use some of the brown. It's got a little bit of the brown, and also I'm gonna just get a dab of the purple, just a small dab, and maybe a little bigger. There we go, just, that's what I'm looking for. Because it's still yellow, but it's almost like a dirty yellow. And what I'm going to use that for is the shadow on the flower. And the very first part that I'm going to paint in is underneath. So the light is basically just coming from the top. So it's like, it's a plant, it's outside, or it's a flower, it's outside, it has a little butterfly on it. Imagine that the light is coming directly down, like it's noon or something. So I'm gonna put in shadow right here underneath these petals, kind of taper it a little bit. See, that may be a little too strong. Might need some water. Water it down a bit. Yeah, there we go. And then like that. And also underneath here, to show the curvature, I'm just going to put a little bit, kind of like that. And then same with the petals, just a little bit going in, like that. And maybe outline a little bit here, like that. And going outward, continue all the way around like that. Also for this one, and just short strokes. I kind of messed up here in the base a little bit because it came a little more rounded than anything, but that's all right. Still looks fine. And then back here, a little bit like this. And then short strokes, kind of pulling it out this way. And then also in the middle of the flower itself. So going inward like this. So it gets darker as you go into the flower. And maybe a little bit right here, just to show a little bit of an edge, so a little bit of shadow there. Notice I'm not trying to make it perfect. Just trying to give the suggestion and using some loose brush marks, and you quickly get the idea of what's going on. And then I probably should have made this green a little lighter. Actually, I'm just gonna wet my brush and I'm just gonna go over the areas that I painted and then just pick up some of that green, which will immediately lighten it up, as you can tell. There we go. Okay, rinse my brush, and then there's only two things really left to do. So instead of waiting for this to dry, I'm just gonna grab a paper towel and then just put it directly on top of it and just kind of pull up. So I'm not waiting for it to dry. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit of brown, mix it in with this green right here. Yeah. See, that brown is just too strong of a color. Gonna get more green, mix it in, get some more, maybe wet it a little bit, make it easier to work with. There we go. Okay, so this green is what I'm going to use as the shadow, and I don't even need a lot of it. I'm just gonna kind of outline this side a little bit, get a little bit texture in there, and then back here like that, and then there. Okay, falling back down. Okay, rinse my brush. Now then, so at this point, you can go ahead and use. Actually, I'll go ahead and I'll use the black in that comes in with the palette instead of using the other, just to show. I was going to use this just because it'll be easier for me to kind of like reach far without blocking the camera, but I'm going to try to use the actual black that comes with the palette. So what we're doing is here we're just going to go in between the little orange spots and just going to fill all of that in with the black. Take your time because we're going in between all the orange spots and all the white spots and just filling it in. Since that's the actual color of the butterfly. And take your time, you don't have to rush. Okay. And I'm just kind of trying to do a very even filling of the color. And then just going directly over where I had overlapped the orange previously. And I had done that because I knew that I was just going to be covering it with black. Okay. Get more black. And fill it in. You can kind of see how it's starting to come out slowly, the image itself. Here I'm probably gonna leave like a little bit of a space of white in between the two wings, just to show, kind of like differentiate where one starts and the other one ends. Basically right at the edge. Kind of like that. You'll see what I mean in a minute. And I'm just very meticulously going in, filling in all the black in between. Feel free to fast forward through this part if you want, just because I'm trying to be very careful so I'm not messing up the pattern of the wings. But the microphone is also like right in front of my face, so I'm just trying to like hold my breath a little bit so I'm not just breathing right into it. Okay, almost done here. Okay. I'm actually going to fill this in a little bit like that. There we go. And then I will continue to use the black to add outlines throughout the image. Part of the reason for it is, usually I say that it's kind of like a choice, it's a preference, but in this case, because there's so much black right here, the viewer's eye just immediately goes directly to the butterfly because it's such a strong contrast. But if we can add some black outlines throughout the rest of the image, we can just make it look more uniform. Here I'm going very slowly, trying to keep my brush more up and down just so I can get those nice thin strokes to get those details in the flower. And they can be kind of tricky. So I'm sorry if I'm blocking the camera at any point, but that's really how you get those the really tiny strokes when you outline. You really want to sculpt your brush, kind of like rotating it as you're pulling through so you get a nice point, but also the more up and down you hold it, the easier it makes it to get a very, very exact point, because you're going exactly on the point of the brush itself. And also just going slowly. Practice a couple of strokes on the side here if you need to. And you can do thicker outlines in some places, obviously, if you want to. Get a little bit of variability. Makes it more interesting. And just these little rounded corners here. Just going slowly. And then the edge. You can also see the shadow color that we put on. As it dried, it lightened up, so it really does look a lot more like a shadow now. In some places, I'm just kind of touching it up, kind of like back here. Like, it doesn't have to be every single mark that's outlined. Give it a little bit of change. Okay. You'll probably notice when you pull towards you, it's easier to make the strokes, especially going from wide to thin. So if you need to turn the actual page around to get different strokes to look exactly as you want them to, feel free to do that. I just can't really do that with my camera setup. But I totally do that whenever I'm outside sketching. Like if I'm out and about doing some plein air, sometimes I'll rotate my canvas or sketchbook so I can get a better angle. Some people would call that cheating, and I personally don't care. Especially if you're like really into it and you're just trying to get the image done, or if it's like a person and you're outside and you're kind of like really limited on time. It's better to just get the image to look exactly how you want it to as quickly as possible, as opposed to overthinking and trying to be really like perfect on everything. Okay, whew. Let me step back and take a look at it. Wow, that came out pretty good. I really like the boldness of it and the color composition. Here's a reference to what it looked like when we started. I think that's pretty cool. Like you can see what it. I'm gonna try to kind of like move it fast just to see. Like what a difference, huh? Anyway, okay. So yeah, that was pretty much it for the the 6th page of the Plants and Flowers book. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, if there's any questions, just leave them in the comments. I will try to respond ASAP, usually within 24 hours. And with that, I will see you at the next video.